Hello, and welcome to The Truth Rebellion. Oh, yeah, that's right. Welcome to The Truth Rebellion, where courage is our creed, faith is our fuel, and compromise has no place. In a culture built on lies, we don't blend in, we rise up. This is The Truth Rebellion. Join the uprising. So, I guess we'll just get into it a little bit, shall we? The very first thing I wanted to talk about, this is the very first episode ever, by the way. And so, the very first thing I wanted to talk about was James O'Keefe, the uncompromising greatest journalist on the face of the earth today. The guerrilla journalist James O'Keefe. James O'Keefe, if you don't know, which I would have a hard time believing that you don't know, is the CEO and founder of Project Veritas. He was ousted out of Project Veritas as the CEO after they had broken many major news stories. Project Veritas is the one that exposed that Planned Parenthood was selling baby parts illegally on the black market. They exposed that Twitter insiders didn't want to sell Twitter to Elon Musk simply because of the fact that they were communists and that they did not like the fact that Elon Musk was a capitalist, and many other things. And when they made their biggest exposure up to that date, which was about Pfizer, then all of a sudden, you saw how deep the deep state actually went. Because out of nowhere, they infiltrated Project Veritas, tried to get the whole thing shut down, and went in there and claimed and had people inside of there turn their back on James O'Keefe and claimed that he was using money incorrectly, that he had all this money, and that he was taking private flights and private dinners and all this other kind of nonsense, and that they weren't getting paid, and they were just so mad about the way he was running the company. Just a whole lot of crap. Stuff that, just generic crap that they could have said about any CEO or anybody that founded anything ever. And really, if you're thinking about it, it's probably not the biggest priority in someone's mind that's working for Project Veritas if they're as uncompromised as James O'Keefe. So obviously they weren't. The New World Order, especially Big Pharma, got in there and ousted him out of Project Veritas. And they came up after him with all this crap since then. And here's the good news, is that James O'Keefe is suing Project Veritas. And he has won decisive court cases. And it looks like he's going to take Project Veritas back. So that's really good news. That's incredible. On top of that, they also have he's releasing a documentary about the entire thing and what actually happened with Project Veritas, and he has them on camera saying that people that were involved in it on camera talking about how they wished ill upon James O'Keefe and how they had investors that were behind them that were backing the whole thing, and one of them was Pfizer, and that they were going to sell all of Project Veritas to Pfizer and all these kind of crazy things. Interestingly enough, right? Because that's the news story that he broke right before he got right before he got jumped by the deep state. And we saw just how deep the deep state actually goes. It goes so deep that it can even go in there and interfere with Project Veritas, which was completely undercover, uncompromised truth and justice guerrilla journalism, and has done more to expose truth than, any news company on the face of the planet up to this point. Love James O'Keefe. Completely uncompromised, and then he left and he created O'Keefe Media Group, or OMG for short. Now, what I wanted to talk about was this, what he just created, what's going on with him right now. If you're not following it or you don't know what's going on, he just released a brand new exposure where he caught them on interview and everything, like he does, dressed in his little disguise with his wig and his glasses, and somehow they don't know that that's him or what he looks like, even though he looks just like himself, on some Hannah Montana wig and Clark Kent Superman glasses type of disguises with a pink blazer. But apparently it works because they have no idea who he is, and they tell him everything he needs to know right in front of their face with a hidden camera. It's really hilarious, man. It's the funniest thing. It's the funniest thing I've ever seen. And basically, this new scam is a $100 billion scandal that, because of anti-white racism and DEI, BS trading and government contracts, a bunch of white companies are no longer able to get any government contracts. They're no longer able to even bid on any government contracts because, as you can see in the video, the woman tells you that all the Native American owned companies get all the contracts because they don't even have anybody bidding against them, because if they place a bid, then the contract is automatically awarded to them, whether or not they have the most money, the least money, the most people, the least people, the most capability, or the least capability, because that's how crazy and racist that DEI is against white owned companies. So now you have these white owned companies that are now going to these Native American and minority-owned companies. This company's ATI. And what they're doing is they are making a deal with these companies where they pretend, one company pretends to be the owner of the other company because it has to be 51% minority-owned. And then when they pretend that they're the owner, they get the government contract and they give the government contract to the white-owned company. And the white-owned company does most of the work, and then they split the profits. So the Native American company gets half the profit because they're the one that got the contract, and then the white-owned company gets the other half because from the contract. So it's money laundering, it's fraud, and it's waste and abuse, and it's a federal crime, and that's what he just exposed. It's $100 billion federal crime. $100 billion just on this one company alone, ATI, just on one company alone. And as well as I do, that there's thousands, if not millions, of these companies all across the United States of America and the world internationally that are doing this right now as a result of all this BS, anti-white, racist, DEI nonsense training. And so if you could get $100 billion in fraud off of this one company, who knows how much billions of dollars of fraud, waste, and government contracts abuse that we could cut if we get all of these companies. But basically, he just released this. You need to go on his socials and check it out if you haven't seen it yet. It's really crazy stuff, but it's releasing as it releases. But so far, and as a result of this one, I'll read you what James O'Keefe posted on his Facebook about what's going on so far. This is what he said, and quote, in my 16-year career, I have never witnessed the government respond as quickly to an investigation as it has to our recent story on federal contractor fraud. In the last 72 hours, this was posted 5 days ago. In the last 72 hours, SBA, that's the Small Business Administration, I believe, launches an investigation into ATI and suspends all contracts. The Antitrust Division of the DOJ announces investigations into ATI. The Treasury Secretary, Besant, announced immediate suspension of $253 million worth of contracts to ATI, and the GSA announces support. People often tell me nothing will be done to the subjects of our undercover investigations, but we are seeing swift action taken by this administration. The contractor fraud goes so much deeper than ATI. I was just saying that there's a lot of corruption waiting to be exposed. The American people deserve justice, and we will work with this administration to bring accountability. Yeah, 100%. Exactly. So that was a direct quote from James O'Keefe. And, it's 100% that man. So, that's really good. He's at it again. There goes James O'Keefe, our boy, our homie, our friend, the most uncompromised, unafraid, courageous journalist on the face of the earth, the incompromisable James O'Keefe. So I just want to start it off with that kind of news right there. If you're not following this story, you need to go check that out, man, because, over here at the Truthful Rebellion, well, we're going to love James O'Keefe because, well, just like us, uncompromised, unafraid, and unfiltered. He's helping lead the Truthful Rebellion, and that's exactly what it is. Now, I heard James O'Keefe in another media release, or what he was talking about, where he said that in the conservative movement, people have become so black-pilled that they can't accept wins. They can't accept W's. So, every time somebody's like, whoa, yeah, we got this win, man, and we really need to celebrate the fact that we got it, they'll be like, oh, well, James, nothing's going to happen, so why are you even trying to make something happen? Blah, 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 nothing's ever going to happen, da-da-da. And he was expressing his extreme frustration over that, and he said, you become so black-pilled that if you keep talking like that nothing is ever going to happen, and you can't do that. Instead of talking and thinking like that, you have to think, we are going to expose every single last one of these people. And I agree with him 100% wholeheartedly on that subject, because I 100% agree with that, because it's just truth. A lot of people are that way, especially, and I understand that, because it's extremely frustrating for me too, because it's people, you don't understand, if you keep up that negative mentality, you're the reason why it's never going to get fixed. You have to fight it on all fronts with everything you have. You have to attack it, you have to go on the offensive, and you have to destroy it. It's the only option you have. You keep pushing and pushing and pressing and pressing and pressing, and let me tell you, raindrops, water drops turn into fountains, and they turn into ripples in the current, and they turn into floods eventually. And the next thing you know is it just takes a little bit, and that whole dam breaks, and it eventually is so much weight that a feather comes in and breaks the camel's back and the whole thing gets broken wide open. And that's exactly what it is. So people need to realize that and continue to fight. The fact that he exposed this and people were like, oh my god, nothing's gonna happen. I'm like, come on, guys. You really got to get it together, man. Like he was saying, we're closer than we've ever been. And, it's very important for people to understand that. Now, on top of that, too, here's some other crazy, interesting news that's going on in that same type of line of division, right? Is that, and I already said this, I predicted this was going to happen. Now, I want you to remember, I said this was going to happen. And I actually have proof of me saying this. I said this a long time ago. And I put it on Twitter, I believe, where I said that and I said this before Trump was even re-inaugurated, but I said that everything that had to do with Joe Biden was going to wind up being declared null and void, that it would be removed and none of it would have any power because Joe Biden's just not the president, simply not the president. Donald Trump won the 2020 election, facts, and it will eventually be discovered, and it's going to null and void everything he did. Well, now it just got released that the GOP, the House GOP, they released a whole memoir talking about the auto pen fraud of Joe Biden. And as a result of that, they are recommending that they're saying that Joe Biden didn't sign anything with AutoPen, that he didn't make any of those choices. He didn't make any of those decisions. They're claiming and saying not only did he not make some of them, but he didn't make any of them. And as a result, that every single executive order that was ever during that 4 years should automatically be null and voided and doesn't count, and all of the pardons should be null and voided too as a result of that. I told you it was going to happen. I put that on Twitter. I talked about it on social media for a long time. I was 100% correct. I'm 100% correct on that. And I believe that's going to happen. Now, that just came out, and that's being sent now to Pam Bondi at the DOJ, the Department of Justice, and she's overlooking the case right now. I believe that this is going to happen, and I believe 100% heartedly they are going to void and nullify every single one of those executive orders and pardons, which will reverse every single thing that fool and that clown ever did while he sat there with his dementia and actually had the audacity to pretend that he was the president of the United States. All the executive orders will be disannulled, and the biggest part about this and the most important part about it is the pardons themselves will be disannulled, which means all the January 6th commissioners that did the J6 committee, all of them can be put on trial for fraud, for fraudulent investigations, and Hunter Biden can be arrested and put on trial for everything that he did. And the big one, you think that's the big one, but the really big and most important one possibly would be Dr. Anthony Fauci. Dr. Anthony Fauci's pardon from 2014 up would actually be declared null and void, and he can be prosecuted for crimes against humanity because of what happened with COVID-19, and not just him. But that's just a domino that leads to so many other people. Now, kind of like, and I can already hear it now, I could hear people now where they say, oh my goodness, Joshua, you really think everything's ever going to get done? It's kind of ironic, just like we were talking about with James O'Keefe, saying conservatives don't know how to take wins because they're so black-pilled they don't think anything's ever going to happen. Yeah, you got to get rid of that nonsense, man. We've never been this close, like you said, exactly. So you hear, well, you really think that? Listen to me, bro. James Comey, the former director of the FBI, one of the most corrupt people ever in the history of American politics. This guy is so corrupt. He's like Hoover from the FBI. He was super corrupt. And, they thought that he would never ever get arrested. They thought he's never going to get arrested. No one's ever going to do. And he's been indicted. Okay? He's been indicted. And it's just the beginning, okay? We're going after Brennan and the CIA, former CIA director. We're going after all of them, okay? And it's going to create a domino effect throughout the FBI, throughout the CIA, and I believe throughout the NSA, throughout intelligence organizations, all of them, and throughout the White House. And eventually that's going to lead up through representatives, House of Representatives. It's going to lead up through senators. It's going to lead up through governors. And it's going to lead up, thank God, to people in the White House, right? It's going to eventually lead up to, and where it has to and it needs to lead up to, is people like Hillary Clinton and Barack Obama. Obama needs to be arrested for crimes against humanity as a traitor to this country. Now, so that's some really good news that's going on with that auto pen thing that's going on with Joe Biden. Okay. Now, here's another great piece of news that's going on. Well, a lot of people are talking about the fact that this Muslim guy is going to possibly be the mayor of New York City. Now, this is insane, right? And we all know it's insane, and we all think it's insane. I think it's insanity. I think it's absolutely crazy. This Muslim guy who refuses to denounce a movement that wants to kill Jews, he refuses to denounce it. He refuses to say that he's against the idea of holocausting Jews because he's for it. Because he's a Muslim. Actually, well, Josh, if he wouldn't lie about that. Oh no, he wouldn't lie about it? Well, it's interesting you say that because let me just go ahead and get the official word for you. What's it called? In Islam, they have this thing called how do you pronounce this? I'm not sure how you even pronounce it, but I don't really care how you pronounce it anyways. But they have this thing called, it's like taqiyya or something like that. Taqiyya, something like that, Taqiyya, something like that in Islam. And, basically what that is the reason why Obama could be a Muslim and still tell the world that he's a Christian, because in Islam, taqiyya, which is the word for prudence, is what prudence means prudence allows Muslims to conceal their beliefs or lie in extreme circumstances to protect their life, property, or community. Taqiyya is particularly emphasized in Shia Islam for self-preservation in hostile environments. Now, the reason why that matters, the reason why that's interesting, because, they're going to tell you, well, that doesn't mean that Muslims lie or that there's anything to do with Islam or blah, 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 all the BS that they say. But the truth is that Muslims see America as a hostile environment. So by definition, they are allowed to lie about what they believe if it's to stop their quote-unquote community, which would be their community in the sense of their community within the United States of America or their community within the region, or they can really, if they want to, extend that community, and they do every single time, if you haven't figured it out by now, to the Middle East and their community in the whole world, their community in Iran and Palestine and all these places that they're in. And as a result of that, they can say that they feel like Israel or the Jews or the Americans are a threat to that community, and therefore it gives them the ability to exercise taqwa in that nation, right? Because they can say that those communities are under attack from these people. This is why Obama absolutely could have been a Muslim and still could claim that he was a Christian, because it would not go against Islam. See, if a Christian is not allowed to deny their faith in Christ according to the Bible. Jesus said, if you deny me before others, I'll deny you before my Father in heaven, right? And it's forbidden in Christianity to deny your faith in Christ. But in Islam, it's not forbidden. In Islam, it's promoted and actively encouraged for them to deny their belief and their faith in Islam, if it helps promote Islam as a whole. So that's why Obama could say, in theory, if Obama is a Muslim, if he was a Muslim, then it could be said that he felt like the Muslim community was under imminent attack from quote-unquote Islamophobia, and then therefore he has the ability to initiate taqwa and lie about his Muslim beliefs to help protect his Islamic community by becoming president and using it to defend the Muslim community, not just inside the United States, but inside the entire world, right? And another big backer up of that, Allah and the Quran and Islam has no problem with lying, would be the Quran, chapter 3, verse 54. Quran 3:54 states, and the disbelievers deceived, but Allah deceived, and Allah is the best of deceivers. Now, that's interesting enough, right? Because the Bible says that God doesn't deceive, that God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should repent. That word repent in the Greek means metanoia, which means change of mind. So God is not a man that he should lie, nor the son of man that he should change his mind. Will he say it and it shall not happen? Will he say it and it shall not come to pass? What I call blessed is blessed, cannot be cursed. So God does not lie. Okay, thou shalt not bear false witness is one of the 10 commandments in the Bible. The Bible says that Lucifer, Satan, is a liar. He's the father of lies. He's a liar from the beginning and the father of them. There's no truth found in him. And Jesus Christ says that he's the way, the truth, and life. No man comes to the Father except through him. So Allah, the God of Islam, cannot be Jehovah, the God of the Bible, because one doesn't lie and the other one is the greatest of all liars, of all deceivers, which is why you could say that Allah is more attributed to Satan in the Bible than God in the Bible, absolutely. So you could say that Allah is Satan if you're by connection to the Bible. Now, the other evidence for Obama being a Muslim, pretty obvious stuff, bro. Never condemning radical Islam, creating this Islamophobia idea, the middle name Hussein, taking his shoes off in the middle of a mosque because he thinks it's holy ground, going through the traditions, which a Christian would never do because it's called idolatry, praying towards Allah, and when he talks about the Quran, he puts the word holy in front of it, and he doesn't just say Quran, he says Quran, he says it like a Muslim. And whenever he says Bible, he never puts the word holy in front of it. So he never calls it the Holy Bible, just calls it Bible and says, let us not forget the atrocities that are being committed in the name of Christ. Yeah, and all this other stupid nonsense, you know how it is. So as a result of that, that's another reason this Muslim mayor guy, he can sit there and not and pretend, oh, I'm for the Jews and I'm for this and for that. And according to Islam itself, at the core teaching of Islam, he would not be breaking any Islamic commandments because they allow that if they're under threat or attack. Now, if you ever listen to him in speeches, what is he always claiming? He's always claiming Muslims are under a threat. Muslims are under attack. His mom or grandma, whoever it was too scared to wear her hijab in the middle of New York after 9/11 and all this. And he's got all these people threatening his family and his life and blah, 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 blah. Now, notice that he says all that. That is really actually, if you look at it, it's kind of a dog whistle in a way to Muslims, saying that, well, now because of all that, I can institute taqwiyah, and therefore I can lie about my beliefs. So when I say I'm a friend to the Jews or the Christians or America or whatever it is Muslims like, oh, well, that's fine. He can lie about that because he's helping advance Islam and protecting Islam, right? And he refuses to denounce this thing against the Jews. Now, the interesting thing about this and that guy and what's going on right now, right, is the fact now all of a sudden, when people thought he was running towards the mayor race, and he was up like by 20-something, 30 points, I think, on Andrew Cuomo, who we all hated as the most corrupt governor in the history of America, in the history of New York. Well, and we all hated that guy. But now, all of a sudden, everybody's rooting for him, and all of the Trump supporters and all the MAGA crowds are rooting for him, and he got this female, huge, outspoken Donald Trump MAGA supporter who created a campaign for Cuomo in New York called Hot Girls for Andrew Cuomo, and he's sitting there doing an interview with her. He's got a smile on his face across from ear to ear, because, he needs all the help he can get. And, now all of a sudden we're rooting for this guy to win, and I understand that because, you don't like him, but you would much rather have him than this Muslim guy. This Muslim guy cannot win this race, or like New York is like going to hell in a handbasket, And so he was ahead like 44 to like 20%. Cuomo only had like 20%. But now he just got endorsed by the current mayor of New York. And out of nowhere, he jumps ahead by 10 points in a short amount of time. So he just jumped from 24 to 34. He just cut the lead by over 10 points in like a couple of days. So that's really good news. And also, so you got this Muslim guy at 44%, Cuomo at 34%. Now, you also have Curtis, the Republican conservative guy in there, and he's sitting at 11%. Now, a lot of people are calling for him to drop out of the race so that 11% doesn't interfere with Cuomo. They want him to drop out and have that 11% bump Cuomo up from a 34 to a 45, which would make him ahead 45 to 44 on charts, right? That's what they want, or for Curtis to even endorse Cuomo. And people would say, oh, well, he's not going to do that because he's a conservative and Cuomo's a Democrat. But essentially what people are saying is that, Curtis, if you do that, people aren't going to see you as a Democrat endorsing Democrats. They're going to understand what you're doing, and you're going to go down as the hero who sacrificed everything for the United States of America and for New York City. And if you do that, then your time will come in the future, and you'll only gain popularity as a result of that. And I could understand where they're coming from. I can see that. Now, on top of that, You also have another 11% in New York that's undecided. So if you get like a dropout endorsement from Curtis and undecided people decide to vote, then that could help push Kumo over the top. You know what I mean? So I don't know. We'll see what happens. But interestingly, too, and that election's like right around the corner. It's coming right up. But interestingly enough about that as well is that there's also some things going on with this Muslim guy for once. And, you saw, he just got endorsed by the governor of New York, of course. That woman is a complete freaking clown. And then you got AOC down there acting like a fool, bouncing up and down, talking about stupid things she doesn't even know what she's talking about, looking like a complete jackass, like a buck-toothed jackass. And she really is, because she's a member of the party of the jackass. And, and she's acting like, blah, blah, blah. She's not stupid. She's a traitor. People keep calling her stupid. She's dumb. She doesn't know what she's talking about. No, that's not what it is. She is a traitor. She's treasonous. She is a traitor. That's actually what it is. So, anyways, you got her bucktooth, ugly, jackass looking South ass, down there. And, because she's a party of the ass. The ass party. The stubbornness of the mule. And the democrats, the demonic rats, yeah, well, that's it, isn't it? The democrats. Like Tom McDonald's song, "The devil is a Democrat." And if you ain't heard that song, you need to go listen to it. You don't know who Tom McDonald is? You'll like him. Trust me. Go listen to it. Go listen to "The Devil is a Democrat" by Tom McDonald. And he's got another song that just came out, I think, called "Anti-Woke." And, he's got that other song, "Charlie." He's got a lot of good songs. You should go listen to him. And also, on top of that, and as a result of that, so AOC down there and everything. Now, while all that's happening, this Muslim guy, a couple of things are coming out about him. One, they're now looking at his immigration forms, and they're saying that he lied on his immigration forms, and he's guilty of fraud, and he's not really a citizen of the United States. So now the GOP senators and the GOP representatives are calling for an investigation and for him to be deported. They want him to be deported from the country because they say that he is faked all of his documents and everything. So, that's how it goes. And that'd be really interesting if they do that and they wind up deporting him. I'll be laughing like crazy, because we gotta stop this guy, bro. You can't get this guy out here, you gotta get rid of this guy. Now, while that's happening too, Donald Trump is also saying that if this Muslim guy gets elected, and he doesn't allow ICE to come in there and do their job, that he's gonna arrest him. He's gonna have the Muslim guy arrested and put him in jail. Hilarious. And on top of that too, this just came out like yesterday, like last night. This Muslim guy, apparently now they're looking at his campaign contributions, and they're talking about him facing criminal indictment too, because he's illegally receiving foreign funding for his campaign donations, and that would not surprise me at all. So, so all this is coming out because everybody's trying to stop this guy from becoming the mayor of New York City, because you don't want to see New York City completely fall to ash by the wayside, the way that London and England and Europe have. Absolutely mad, man. Absolutely mad. Now, That's some of the biggest stuff that's happening right now. And it's all really important. Now, also, simultaneously, you have Alex Jones, and his case was rejected to be seen by the Supreme Court for that $1.6 billion lawsuit that they threw on Alex Jones. Now, I think that is the biggest BS I've ever heard in my life. And that really makes me mad. That offends me, bro. Because Alex Jones should absolutely have the court case heard by the Supreme Court, and it should be overturned. I think it's the biggest load of bullocks I've ever seen in my life. You can't sit there and sue a human being for having free speech. It does not matter if Alex Jones believed that the Sandy Hook shooting was fake. And by the way, that was extremely over-exaggerated, and that's not even what he said. He never even said that it was fake. He actually had a guest on there who was talking about it being fake, and all he did was say that he believed the government uses it to try and promote an anti-gun agenda, which I agree with. Now, but he never said that the shooting itself was fake or that the people didn't die. It was completely taken out of context. And not only that, but he only mentioned it one time on his show ever. So, now that's first of all the facts. We got facts over fiction here. But on top of that, let's say even if that wasn't the case, even if he completely went out of his way and told everybody in the whole world that he believed that nobody was ever shot and the whole thing was completely fraud and made up and everybody involved is lying, blah, 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 blah. Even if he did say that, he has every right to say it, because that's called First Amendment freedom of speech. He has every right to say it. And they're like, oh, well, he's defaming. No, defaming. That's not defaming. Donald Trump has been defamed. Kyle Rittenhouse was defamed. There are many people that have been defamed. Alex Jones was not defaming anybody. He was stating his personal opinion, and he has the right to state it, because nobody does anything against real defamation. So he has the right to say it. It's his opinion. It doesn't matter if he can prove it or not prove it. Doesn't matter. That's not the essence of an opinion column or someone giving their opinion, or the essence of a journalist talking about a news story. They can say whatever they think and feel to be the truth without consequence. Full stop. Full end stop. Otherwise, we don't have a First Amendment anymore. We don't have free speech anymore. And you might as well take the whole thing and throw it in the trash, because that's all it's worth. Full stop. Right? And so the fact that he could even be sued for saying what he believes to be true is a complete all-out unprecedented assault on democracy and the First Amendment in the first place. It's completely kangaroo courted and charlatanous. On top of that, not only should he not even be able to be sued for $1, but to be sued for $1.5 billion is the most overgrossed exaggeration I've ever heard in my entire life. To try and bankrupt him is completely load of crock. It's completely bullocks. It's the most laughable and asinine judgment that's ever happened in the history of American politics up until this point, and it needs to be reversed and it needs to be overturned. This Supreme Court refused to hear the case because they're just too cowardly to take the case. Now, this Supreme Court, I've really had a problem with these people. I've had a love-hate relationship with these guys because they were doing a terrible job. They did a bad job when Trump was president. The first term, they did a horrible job, a terrible job, an embarrassingly, frighteningly evil job when Donald Trump was being hunted by the FBI, they wouldn't do anything to overturn the election results, even though they should have, because Donald Trump won the 2020 election. They did not do anything to investigate it or hear the court cases or anything. They should have listened to every single one. If there was justice in this country, they would have. They did a terrible job, and they almost cost this entire country and almost all the blood of every single person in the military that fought for this country was on the hands of the Supreme Court. Now, they lucked out because it still would have been. They and the Republican and the GOP and all those people, they lucked out because of the fact that God is so big that he overrode the election results and put Donald Trump back into the Oval Office this time, right? Now, on top of that, okay, they made a good decision when it came to Roe versus Wade. That was the most important decision that they could have made, and I'm actually surprised they made it because they're so stupid. You almost have a hard time believing that they wouldn't make it. And then we saw that big, unprecedented leak of a court case, and nobody does anything about it because everybody always said, oh, well, it's been commonplace in this country that people that work for them can't leak any of their court case decisions before they happen and blah, blah, blah. And yet they did. And did they ever find out who was? No. Was there any consequences? No. Then now they're like, oh my God, it's chaos because it's never happened. And then they did it a second time. This is the second time it's been leaked before it was decided. Does anyone do anything? No. Now it's becoming normal. It's commonplace for them to leak it. And that dangerous trend needs to be reversed, and those people need to be brought to justice as well. On top of that, so the Supreme Court does some good things, and it does some terrible things. Well, now, I'm thinking maybe they just do terrible things because they're horrible, horrible people, but thank God that, whatever. And so they have these good things and these bad things and, so on and so forth. And now it looks like they're back to being cowards. Because while Donald Trump is in office, while you have the ability to go against that satanic, demonic, globalistic ideology that comes from Joe that he didn't even create himself, he's just following other people, do whatever he gets told. Now that you have that thing present in America, it's horrible because oh well, now now maybe you don't do any of that. You know what I mean? Maybe you well, you get what I'm saying. So this whole thing has to be overturned for Alex Jones. And it should have been overturned by the Supreme Court, but the Supreme Court was too cowardly to overturn it. They were too cowardly to overturn it with Alex Jones. And that whole thing, they need to be investigated for that. Honestly, they need to... Yeah, honestly, they need to... You just need a revival. That's what's gonna do it, because... a lot of these people are just... not of God. So, But whatever. So, they should have ended this nonsense. This $1.5 billion harvest should not even be a thing. But they haven't, so it is what it is. So, we support Alex Jones. But I think it's interesting that me and Alex Jones were in the same house. In the sense of we fight this enemy. And, it's just crazy, bro, because it should have been overturned by the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court's too cowardly to make it happen. Now Alex Jones is on InfoWars on X talking about how him and how Donald Trump needs to fight and destroy all the people that are persecuting him, and not just all the people that are persecuting him, but all the people that are persecuting all of his followers, all the people persecuting my Alex Jones, and all the people that are persecuting Mike Lindell, and so on and so forth. And I agree with that. And so if he doesn't do anything about it, well then, we're all screwed because they will kill you next time around if you don't stop them now. And I agree with that 100% too. And now you got this ridiculous Supreme Court claim where they literally refuse to hear it because they're too afraid to do the right thing. They need to be replaced. But that's some other news. And now Mike Lindell is talking about the fact that, he's like in the same kind of similar position as Alex Jones. And he's waiting to see if his court case is going to be listened to or if it's going to be rejected. So it's pretty crazy stuff, man. Pretty crazy. I mean, the world is crazy when the politics have infiltrated everything so much that you have to pretend the world doesn't exist just to be able to be alone. Because when you don't, digitally you're always looking at, why does this person have that? So basically, they're going to have to do something about this stupid anti-Alex Jones BS, and they're going to have to actually hear these court cases instead of running away like the cowards that the Supreme Court has become. It's ridiculous, crazy that way. Donald Trump is in the office, and it continues to go, and you know how it goes. It is what it is. It's that same old thing. You know how it goes. And now, let's see here. What other breaking news is going? There's breaking news all over the place, bro. It just keeps on going. Also, the ceasefire in Israel has ended, and Israel and Hamas are fighting each other just like the ceasefire never existed. It's almost like it's been predicted for the last, thousands of years that that's exactly how that was going to go down. Well, I guess it's true. Now, Bibi Netanyahu is bombing the Gaza Strip again, and he's releasing bombs all over the place. People getting mad at him. Oh, my God. Bibi Netanyahu's bombing the Gaza Strip again. Well, you know what? Israel has the right to defend herself. Okay. Hook, line, sinker, positively. End of story. Facts. We are the righteous rebellion, then we bring offensive truth to the forefront to destroy the lies of the enemy. Offensive truth.